Podcast, your favorite and number one podcast platform. My name is Dedumit, and I'm your host for this very particular podcast. Guess what? We are back, and this marks our second episode on the channel. Yes, I have with me here a special guest. Let's take a look at the topic that we are really going to talk about this week. This week, we're looking at a very interesting topic, which is creating networks beyond academics. I guess you've been wondering, of course, I have the relationship that I have, or I have all the networks within my academic space. But how do I really ensure that I also have networks outside my academic space? And that is why we're here today on the Talking Podcast. Hello, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, David.
Yeah, we're glad to have you, and yeah, it's good to see you again.
Nice to meet you again. Nice to meet you this new academic year.
Interesting. So yeah, actually we're glad that you have made this is your first appearance here on the Talking Podcast, and that you are really willing to talk about this interesting topic today. Yeah, which is creating networks beyond academics. So you quickly just introduce yourself, and so that our listeners there could able to know who is this guy.
Well, I'm a lot. But for names, I'm Emmanuel MINJA, and I'm a final year student here at the African Leadership University. I'm doing Global Challenges degree, quite new one, is it? And also the Secretary General for the Student Representative Council here. So I think that is me in brief. Yeah.
In brief, but that's a lot. All right. So basically, the topic for this episode is, as I mentioned earlier, creating networks beyond your academic space. Okay. Yeah. So as a person who has, of course, done a lot, academically, and also even beyond academics, you have done quite a number of things. To start with, what does networking mean to you?
Well, I don't know if that is a tricky one to me, but I would put it this way. Networking is a process, first thing. And it is also a product. So for me, how I put it, it's a process of creating and maybe nurturing long-term relationships with people who you think you would benefit from them, and obviously also they have to benefit from you. So it's also a thing that happens on a social occasion, but professionally gaining. Mm-hmm. So short putting it, it's simply a process of nurturing your networks or your people, your connections, and also making something out of it mutually benefiting.
Interesting. I like how you have put it, and it really sounds easy. So how does one ensure, or how does one create a pool of networks beyond the academic space?
Well, again, that one is tricky and very, very large to explore. But if I would just maybe try to figure out simple ways to tailor it, it will be, first, not everyone fits into one size of networking. Networking comes in a variety of ways and also has a variety of approaches. Mm-hmm. So I think the first step for you would be to know first, what type of networking do you like? Do you like one-on-one? Do you like a huge event of people? Do you like something, what is it that fits you? And what is it that you think you'll benefit from meeting the people? So someone can be networking over a coffee, meeting with someone like how you're talking. Someone might be going to a huge conference and they're able to meet people. And then when you have that, you also have to have something like a goal or, what is it that you want to achieve from that? Mm-hmm. So when you know your goal, then you go next into, trying to, or your process of nurturing now, you have to, pay it forward or at least put something in the system for them to recognize it. So you might go into putting some efforts or some things that are valuable to them, and they start to see the value in you, and why should they get connected to you? Mm-hmm. Then when you're having that, you're probably now going to have clear communication stuff, communicating your intentions, your goals, not having an ambiguous language or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I think over time, you have succeeded in making a network wherever it is, academically or beyond academic.
Interesting. So I'm pretty sure maybe you may have come across this story where as in someone is complaining that okay, I made this connection, or I don't know how we just stopped getting in touch with that person. So what's the art of maintaining these networks that we create beyond our academic spaces?
Okay. I think it starts from following up. So you have probably created a network, or you've probably made a contact with someone, and as I was saying, you have got a niche, or maybe you have tried to identify where do you want exactly to get connected. You've been there, you've connected with someone. The very first step I would say is to make a follow-up and make sure it's a match, that you and I know I am David and you are Emmanuel. And when we know that, then we come to following up. But again, you don't follow up on on some vague stuff, right? So it comes into offering your value. So you have certain things that you want to offer to the person, or you're fit for that network. As I've told you, it must be mutual benefiting. So you have something that you offer the person. Make sure that you do that and you communicate the value that, hey, I'm offering this and I'm able to offer this. Maybe a way to go about that is volunteering or just doing something, a showcase. Then when you have that, constantly follow up and communicate your goals. Following up might be in a lot of ways: having a coffee together, setting up a meeting, organizing something, trying to volunteer with the person's programs, or doing something that keeps you people connected as a way of following up. It's not necessarily supposed to be an email or a call, but something that they constantly get reminded of you. Yeah, I would say that is the way maybe to maintain and manage those.
Okay. So in a situation like you have successfully, maintained that circle of networks that you have, what are the benefits, that comes with maintaining or having a well-built kind of, relationship or connection with your network?
I think personally for me, I put it as it's something that helps me to advance my career. So I get career advancements from there. I get to take my learnings from academics beyond classes by just connecting with these people. They tell me how the industry functions and how I should shape my learning. So there are people who are helping me to, get through seeing how I can put my career in shape and maybe mold my experience to fit what I want to do in the future. They are the same people who are helping me to get internships if they're not the ones who are actually providing it. Also, there are people who are mentoring me and stuff like that. Yeah, but also they, open challenges for me to think outside the box and do things which are intriguing for my mind and my academic.
Okay, so in your personal opinion, where would you say is the best place, to create those networks?
Well, this is ironic. I mean, okay, let's get to it. So the best place should be your best place. So it's not one size fits all, as I've said in the beginning. So it's something that cuts through what's best for you. It can be a club. It can be, a nightclub. It can be a social media. It can be a coffee shop. You go to a book club, or you go to somewhere where you study something and you find some people there, and then you're just connected already. So the best place should be first your easiest place, your most comfortable zone. Of course, people talk a lot about moving out of your comfort zone and everything. That is not that type of comfort I'm talking about. I'm talking about a place where you feel comfortable starting conversation with someone. Somewhere where it's simple for you also to do that. And somewhere where you also feel welcomed and you don't feel like you're doing a lot to fit in. So that is your best place. So wherever that place is, then that is your best place for you to start networking.
No, that's very interesting, guys. I'm sure you got that point, right? So it's possible that, many people actually they get, caught up in a situation whereas they're wondering like, okay, I really wish I could, have some other networks beyond my academic space, apart from having the same people doing the same thing. But the challenge comes in as, okay, but where exactly do I go in order to start, making these, creating these networks? So you can start from the best place for you. Start where you feel comfortable, where you feel, accepted. That way it's going to be easy for you to have at least a chance of networking actually beyond your academic space. So now, okay, again, on the other side, it may not be as easy as it seems, now, to someone who has never really been themselves when it comes to networking, and due to maybe because of loss of esteem, how does one ensure that they are also not left out in terms of creating networks?
Okay, so I sometimes also struggle with imposter syndrome, if that is what you're implying, where when I'm told I can do this, I don't think I can do it. Or when I'm just seeing something, I feel like I'm too small for that. Like, hey, I'm too tiny to go for that. I can't even do a quarter of it. But I think the confusion here comes because we are trying to go to the places which are not best for us. So bringing it back to the last point, it has to be your best place. It has to be a place that you're feeling welcomed. You won't feel low self-esteem while you're welcomed. Hey, I'm not tell you, I feel like I know everyone. So I will, network with a lot of people because I feel welcomed here. I don't know how would it be self-esteem. If you take me to a presidential something, I'll simply feel very low self-esteem. Then I can't even ask, CEO roundtables. I can't go there and start talking about my doings and stuff unless otherwise I'm crazy. So I feel you shouldn't lose yourself into going to spaces where you feel you're not fit. You should start with places where you're fit. If you do believe that you have something to offer, because as I've mentioned also earlier, it's a mutual benefit. If you have something to offer them and you can't offer them something, it should be valuable to them. And if it's valuable to them, then there is no way that you're having a low self-esteem on that. So it should be your best place.
Awesome.
Your best place should be where you're feeling comfortable. If it's not comfortable for you, you're probably not in the space.
Yeah, I agree with you on that actually. The really biggest reason, of course, and also you may really have low self-esteem, but the fact that you're not really trying to help yourself by finding yourself or going into those right spaces to meet with the right people, I think it can really become a challenge to that.
I got you. Can I just maybe from cutting you short? There are these people who they will not push themselves to go beyond what they feel is comfortable to them. And they will not want, they don't know if it's to not want, or they feel very terrible networking. I have those type of people too, or I've been one of those, I think, at a time, where I feel like, how am I even going to start to talk to someone? Probably what you're studying is a very low something. Let me put it maybe on myself. So I did liberal arts studies for my high school, and I don't know if it's Afrocentric view or something. When you're just doing art subject, you just seem like a loser. You're just like, the hell, you're not an accountant, you're not a doctor, you're not an engineer. Who are you? A teacher? Or if you make it best, you're going to be a lawyer. But again, are you even going to make it? So, it kept me at a space where I felt very small and someone who can't do anything, really. But getting out of that is really something that you have to push. So you probably want to imagine yourself, maybe have your 5 years timeline. Who do you want to be? Where do you see yourself? What is your aspirations? What actually made you do what you're doing right now? As much as small it is, you might start to put your goals into a 5 years plan. Like in the 5 years, I want to be harvest, that type of a person hosting that type of a show. And for me to reach there, right now where I'm just in an African village where they don't even know what TV is. So when I'm going to tell them about TV, they're just going to look at me like, what kind of crooked kid you are? So because I have that vision, I interact with people with that vision. I don't interact with people in this vision. So it comes into a way, and I think a way that worked for me is to start seeing or to start putting yourself in a space where it's already large enough for you to, thrive and go for that. So if you think your time right now is not allowing you or is making you inferior, then draw your 5 years timeline. Make it as ambitious as possible and work on that. Then when you go for that, I'm very sure you're going to have some self-esteem to interacting with people.
Interesting. So now, here now is the big problem, the COVID-19 pandemic has really limited a lot of people from gathering the usual way, and this has also become like a very big effect, negative effect to how people should create networks, because they're no longer gathering like they used before. So now, how do we ensure that, we're still winning at the game of creating networks, even if there is this pandemic?
People in the pandemic have made a lot of networks.
Wow.
People in the pandemic
I'm curious, really? How?
Because people in the pandemic opened TikToks. People in the pandemic opened a lot of stuff. Some people started their Snapchat channels, and some people went into doing a lot of lives and stuff. So a lot of people created a lot of networks, but professionally, I doubt. So how do people go into creating professional networks in this period? I think it's being intentional, because we have the power, we have the tools, we have all things that are exposed right now. It's very inclusive, using Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. It's very inclusive to just get your niche. It's just that you have to be intentional about it and consistent, I would say.
That's very, I agree with you on the point of social media, right? So it seems like a lot of people have really, capitalized social media, and people have really built themselves. If you go online right now, you find different people.
Did I see you on your LinkedIn saying you're there?
Absolutely. Yeah, so I agree with you. Now, okay, so to someone like, a student, of course, we're talking about academics, you are in school, of course, you can't forget about the pressure that comes up with, academic work, So how could one balance the two, At the same time, you want to make sure that you meet your deadline, and at the same time, you also want to create networks, outside, your academic space. And also, of course, you may be influenced with maybe the peer pressure. You see your friends every weekend, they are this event, they are this program. How can one still manage the two?
First, on the peer pressure, nothing fits all. So
interesting.
So if they're doing events every week and every weekend, it doesn't mean you have to also going on it every weekend. It might be very ridiculous for you to go on an event every weekend. Maybe your people are astronauts. You want to make network with astronauts, and they're 5. So you can't afford to go on every event. It will be draining your energy. So how to balance this? First is to set your goals. I want to achieve this amount of network in this framework of time. So in this framework of time, I have to meet ABCD. Check your calendars, go to Eventbrite, look there, what is happening, what's popping, and stuff like that. And you'll probably just fit yourself in it. Try to also manage your expectations. Don't dream too high. Don't make yourself too low.
Okay. Yeah, that's very helpful indeed. I like the point you emphasized on peer pressure. So as we wrap up, can I ask you this? Do the networks that we create, beyond academics, have any impact on our academic life?
Obviously. I think yes, because on my side, I think these are the people challenging me to get extra creative on my work at school and stuff. So they are type of people who I feel giving me this sense of you can do it, we've done it, you can also just make something out of it. So yeah, I want to do better and better. So they have that impact. Hey, you do better, get an internship. You do better, go for this grad school. You do better, you do that and that. So perfectly work.
Interesting. There you have it. Networks that we create beyond our academic spaces, they really have a huge impact. Of course, you may really need them in the long run. So make sure that you prioritize them. Okay. Yeah. And as we now wind up. So what's your final, closing remarks when it comes to this topic, creating networks beyond academics?
Quite a few things. First, not all fits everyone, so choose your stuff. Also have a plan. Where do you need it? What do you need? Communicate clearly. Follow up. Provide your value. And probably also, don't kill yourself on the process.
Very beautiful. What a way of ending on a high note. So it's very clear that indeed you have to first assess yourself. Don't kill yourself. Take it easy, because it's important that you first know who you are, find the best place that fits for you, so that in the long run you're not gonna really stress a lot in creating these networks. So this has been the Talking Podcast. I'm glad that you did enjoy this topic indeed, and in some way, somehow, it has really helped you. So thank you so much, MINJA, for coming through. We are glad that you spent this time with us indeed and sharing with us your insightful, indeed, and knowledge that was really helpful. We are glad that you really made yourself available, and we hope that next time again, we're going to have you here back on the Talking Podcast.
It'll be my honor. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. So there you have it. This has been the Talking Podcast, and I was talking to a youth, and yeah, he just helped us to understand or share with us the knowledge about the topic of discussion, which is creating networks beyond academics. It's a very important topic. We all need networks to grow in one way or the other. So I'm sure you have learned something. Do join us again next week here on the same platform. You can also follow us on Instagram, which is the Talking Podcast. And don't forget to participate also simply by commenting. Drop a comment, down there, so that we hear your views. What do you think about this topic indeed, or how do you go about creating networks beyond your academic space? This is David Umvita. See you next week.